everybody. So I apologize, I won't be, but we will do the speech in English. So I'm Tom. I run a global recycling business. Today we operate TerraCycle in 24 countries around the world, including here in France, which is actually, France is one of our largest European markets. We operate in Latin America, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Middle East, North America. And TerraCycle has been around for 10 years with one concept, which is how do we eliminate the very concept of garbage. But to understand how we look at, how we try to do this, we need to take a step back and think about what garbage really is. I think the most important thing about garbage is that it's not a natural concept. It doesn't exist in nature in any capacity. We learned this in elementary school. It's such a simple idea that if a leaf falls off a tree, some microorganism will eat the leaf, and so on, and it goes around in a big, big circle, and there just doesn't exist this entire concept. So garbage is an entirely man-made and, interestingly enough, a very modern idea. The very concept of garbage hasn't been around for more than 100 years, which is optimistic because it means that maybe we can solve it. It's not a problem that's been around for centuries and centuries. So where does garbage come from? Garbage is really an equation that is created by two things, two very modern things. First, we consume way, way more than we ever used to consume before. Think about your parents and their parents and their parents, maybe a few generations back. When they bought a table, they would buy it with the purpose of durability so they could give it to the next person and next person. Today, you know, if my shirt rips, I go buy a new one. We don't fix our shoes anymore. We don't fix anything. We just buy, and buy. Now, the problem with all this buying is that the things we buy are made from very complex materials. And when you add those two things together, that's what creates the idea of garbage. Now, garbage is a very large problem. It's in total 5 billion tons every year around the world. 25% of it ends up in oceans. 25%. It's 1.25 billion tons a year into the oceans. Now, what do we do with all the garbage? Some small percentage, globally about 15%, in Europe maybe about 25% is recycled. Everything else goes into one of two things. Either it's burned or it's buried. Buried is the more common solution. Burning is a little bit more advanced and is not as common. But those are the two ways we get rid of all this material. Not in a valuable way, but in a way where we treat it as a negative. So, how do we think about eliminating the concept of garbage? And one of the frustrations I have in running a waste management company is people always think the solution is cool companies like TerraCycle that think about garbage differently and treat our garbage differently. Now, that is a part of the answer, but that's only answering the problem. It's sort of like if you break your arm, we're the cast that you could put on your arm to help fix it. But the real question is, how do you not break your arm? How do you not create garbage in the first place? And that all has to do with us as individuals. And we really have to absorb this idea because that is the fundamental answer to the entire global garbage problem. So there's this chart here that shows from the most sustainable to the least sustainable buying habits. Because something can only become garbage if we buy it one day. So the very best thing to do, we'll go from the very bottom, is at least buy consciously. Think about what you're buying. Because every time you buy something, you are voting for more of that thing to exist. It's the most powerful vote we cast every day. If you buy Coke, you're telling Coke, I want more Coca-Cola out there. Now, the next step up is think about, instead of buying disposable objects, and think about just how much stuff we buy that's disposable, think about buying durable. Because durable will eliminate the need for more disposable things to be bought. Now, if you are going to buy durable, the next best thing is don't buy it new. You know, if it's durable, it probably lasts, which means you can buy it used. And then the very, very best thing to do at all is just stop buying stuff in general. That is actually the answer. It's not companies like mine, thank you. It's stop buying. And there you go. Then all environmental problems evaporate. Now, let's look at the garbage now that does get created. Some of it can be recycled. Now, that's limited typically to only things that what we call have positive economics. The reason that paper, aluminum, PET, HDPE, and glass are recyclable, there's nothing special about that. There's nothing special about this bottle compared to a dirty diaper or a used cigarette. The only thing special about this bottle is that it's valuable. And the material value is so high that you can pay to collect it and pay to process it. Everything else that's non-recyclable, that falls in the other category, can be technically recycled. We today collect cigarettes here in France, use cigarettes and recycle them, coffee capsules and so on. But doesn't make economic sense. It costs more to collect this waste and process it than the value is worth. And that's why something is non-recyclable, not because of its technical ability. Now, what's really interesting about garbage, and we're in a forum that's talking about economics, is what is the economics of waste? You know, I took a lot of economics classes while I was at Princeton for university, and every supply and demand curve always looks like this. Basically, you know, this is the supply and demand of a potato, but if you have more supply, the price goes down, more demand, the price goes up. The question that I was starting to think about is, where would you put garbage on this equation? The problem is, there's nowhere to put it, because garbage falls in the negative. The one way to define garbage is it's something that we're willing to pay to get rid of. So this is now the supply and demand of dirty diapers. Down there is the actual supply and demand. There is negative demand. We pay to get rid of it. So dirty diapers are, in a way, a commodity with negative raw material costs. You can get paid to take it. Now, let's say if we all get excited about recycling dirty diapers, and we're actually doing dirty diaper recycling in the US today, there'll be more and more demand. And as there's more and more demand, that gets you to the second line, the dotted line. Suddenly, it will one day become not a negative price, but a positive price. And the moment it crosses that zero, it is not garbage anymore. It's just a valuable commodity like a potato. So how do we look at garbage as a value, like nature does, and not as a liability, like we humans do? And I think the way to do that is you have to deconstruct garbage into three basic criteria. This bottle is not just a bottle. It's three things. It's PET, which is the plastic it's made from. But it's not just plastic in my hand. It looks like a bottle. So the second thing, beyond its composition, is its features, its form. It looks like a bottle. Now, it's also a third thing. It's an idea. The idea of plastic that looks like this is to hold a liquid. And when you think about waste as a combination of three things that took money to create, the composition, the features, and the form, or the intention, then you can unlock the value of garbage. So when you look at what you can actually do with garbage, the two most common things that we do in the world today are the linear things, the things that are really only allow you to do it once. You can only bury something once, you can only incinerate something once. But there are three ways that you can do circular solutions. And I have found in running TerraCycle now for 10 years in 24 countries that there's no garbage that cannot go into a circular solution. There's actually no exception. I will show that to you today. Now, the very best thing to do with garbage is what we would call reuse. Reuse is where you value every aspect of the waste, its form, its composition, and its intention. Let me show you some examples. This is one of the first products we ever invented. This has been now tens of millions of these bottles have been sold where it's direct reuse. We just took an old soda bottle, emptied it out, filled it up in this case with liquid worm poop, which is an organic fertilizer, and sold it at Walmart. No melting of the bottle ever. That's direct reuse. And everything I'm going to show you today has been done in the millions of pieces, not one or two, but in real scale. Or here's an example where we worked with Unilever to take butter tubs, and we found that a butter tub has the same specifications as a planting pot. So 35 million plants were sold like that, packaged in old garbage butter tubs at a major retailer. This is what it looks like up close. Now, reuse can only take typically 1% of the total garbage that we collect. Then the next area that you can do is what we call upcycling. In upcycling, you value the form, you value the composition, but you purposely don't value the intention. Pet food packaging was never intended to be pet products. Wine corks were never intended to be cork boards, and so on and so forth. And everything I'm showing you, whether it's shower curtains from granola wrappers, speakers from candy wrappers, and so on, is done in very large scale by the companies that are experts in soccer balls, we're in Europe, footballs, or other examples. Like here, Timberland collaborates with TerraCycle to make the garbage shoe. This is available in Japan, where 20% of the shoe is made from garbage. You could see the packaging that's used to replace leather. And the sole, the bottom, is actually made from wine corks. We're the world's biggest collector of wine corks, and they just shred them, compress them like a Birkenstock sole, and that's what, you just can't see because of the white plastic. Even couture, these are in museums. This is in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. That one, just say it was a lot of fun to get the raw material together for that. It took a little work. We've seen that this model can be implemented anywhere in the world. This is today a map of all the countries where we operate. You'll notice France is one of the countries where we work. And we find that garbage is a global problem. What's exciting about the fact that it's a global problem is that you can bring global solutions to it. And because the same companies make the same products everywhere in the world, when you figure out how to recycle toothbrushes, it's the same toothbrush no matter whether it's in Argentina or Japan or France. This just gives you a little sense of where we are in Europe today, but we would encourage you to go to TerraCycle.fr and sign up and send us your waste. It's completely free, and I'll show you how that happens in a moment. But we've even found that upcycling can go and extend to office space. Every one of our offices around the world are made 100% from garbage. This is our headquarters in the US, or our office in Germany, London, Canada, Sao Paulo in Brazil, and so on. You'll see one theme is that every aspect, every detail is made from garbage. It's 50% cheaper than any other way to design office space because you don't pay for the stuff you design your office from. It's sort of fun. Now, upcycling can only take 4% of the total garbage we collect. So what happens with 95% is what we would call recycling. Now, everything I'm going to show you here is recycling things that were never recyclable before. For example, this toy may look familiar. It's made by Hasbro. It's Mr. Potato Head. But it's made 100% from used post-consumer potato chip bags, 100%. Or these are examples of injection molding or extrusion molding aluminumized waste that was never recyclable before. This program we work with in 9 countries now. We also, sorry, the slide's a little odd. We also find that sometimes companies want to take their waste and put it back into their system. And we really try to encourage this idea of circular economy within all of the partners we work with. Here's an example where we worked with a company that makes flip-flops, Old Navy, collected huge volumes of flip-flops and built 4 playgrounds. This is one of them, made 100% from the used flip-flops, except for the color. Every aspect of this playground is made from used shoes. We're also excited when companies try to take their waste internal. I apologize for the background on this slide, but for example, the pen you see there is the world's first pen made from used pens by the world's biggest pen company. Here in France, we collect pens with Bic, so if you want to send them to us, we'd love for you to do that. But we really try to think about how do you take the waste back into company systems. So what we try to do is we try to make things that are non-recyclable, nationally recyclable. And I've showed you here that basically everything from used chewing gum to dirty diapers to used cigarettes can be circularly processed. There's really no exception. The only challenge is the cost. Now, it's one thing to be able to process the waste, but you can't process waste unless you collect it. So one of the things that we've been working on very hard is how do we create collection systems where consumers are willing to send us the garbage so that we can actually process it? Because one of the challenges with human waste is it's very complicated. Let's take an animal like a monkey, right? Monkeys produce 3 types of garbage, only 3. They produce the carbon dioxide they exhale. They produce the poop and the urine that they, after they eat, just like us. And the third thing they do is they have body parts, or one day they die and they have their whole body. Now, we have all 3 of those types of garbage. We breathe, we poop, and we have nail clippings, hair, and whatever, and one day we die too. But we have, in addition to those 3 waste streams, 300 unique categories of waste. Cosmetics being one category, writing instruments like pens being another category, and so on. And when you mix all that complex material together, it's very difficult to process. And that's why we end up burning or burying our garbage. So the important aspect of solving garbage is to create systems where you can collect just one type of garbage at a time. Now, we have 15 different ways we collect. I'm not going to show them all to you, but this is our most popular method, and this is available here in France if you wish to use it. You go to first our website, TerraCycle.fr, here in France. Then you can choose one of a few collection programs. And the older the country gets, we have more and more programs. In the US, we collect 60 unique types of waste. Here, I believe we're at about 5. Then you choose the program you want to collect for. You just take that garbage, put it in a box. When the box is full, you download a shipping label from our website and send it to a warehouse in that country. Once we receive it, we check it in and sometimes give you a small donation for every piece of garbage you collected to go to any school or charity of your choice. And that repeats and repeats and repeats. And today in France, I believe we have somewhere between 250,000 and 500,000 people actively doing this for a number of different waste streams, and not just here, but all over the world. What this looks like is in schools and in homes and offices, people first start collecting the waste. Here people are collecting chip bags. Then they start creating these unique systems. These are at least for schools, and there's millions of these boxes out around the world today. In offices, people won't go as crazy. They just put a little statement saying, please collect pens or something. What I love in schools too is sometimes teachers go really crazy, dress like garbage to teach people how you can look at garbage differently. Either way, the effect is really important, is that it collects huge material volumes. We also do this at retailers. For example, these are boxes that are now at 70,000 retailers around the world to collect garbage in the store as well. So at Staples, we collect binders, or at Walmart, we collect toothpaste tubes, and so on. So we talked about the key solution to waste is it has to be collected, has to be processed, but if people are not excited about it and don't know about it, they won't participate in any system. So it's always important, I think, in any system to link it into three ways. You have to collect, process, and promote, or create excitement. Now, the way we've looked at marketing has been a very different approach for our company. We're still a relatively small company. I mean, not that small, but relatively still a smaller company. So we created a model of what we call negative cost marketing. Our marketing department actually makes money, it doesn't spend money. The way we do that is a three-strategy approach. First, we have been very good at generating content, getting articles and so on written, but it doesn't just stop there. Our team blogs for 30 to 50 blogs. Many of them pay us. So the New York Times is a great example of an organization that pays so that we can put our propaganda into their papers. We also have our own TV show. You can tune in here if you go to the National Geographic channel and look for Garbage Moguls. I think it airs in France and so on. We work with a lot of organizations to do community outreach, to try to get cities to collect, or other organisms. And then finally, we work with the brand partners that we have, whether it's Tassimo or Matern or others, to use their systems to help create awareness around these programs. Let me show you what that means. If you get enough media, it gets so big, especially if you do something unique, that if you just Google the idea of chip bag recycling or cigarette recycling, it basically, every link you'll see on Google is one of these TerraCycle platforms. But I think where it gets really interesting is to see what brands do with the program, so you can see the general excitement. One of my favorite examples is many brands are now printing this logo on their packaging, explaining that their package that wasn't recyclable before now can be recycled. That's on 60 billion packages per year. I'll show you two examples. Here's one in France. If you buy, I believe that's Matern, and it says recycle basically your pump-uts, and you can send that in here in France. But one of my other favorite ones is now 1 billion cigarette packages a year in Canada explain that cigarettes can be recycled. So that's one example way of leveraging a partner to get them to create huge awareness around a system. And what we found is that this system, with no exception, can handle any type of waste. In Brazil, we invented the process to recycle used chewing gum. Turns out chewing gum is not food. You probably already knew this. But you can melt chewing gum at 35% chewing gum, 65% gum packaging to make a really cool plastic. We now recycle cigarettes in 9 countries around the world, including here in France. We only launched the French recycling program for cigarettes 2 months ago, and it's already been fantastically successful. And dirty diapers is about to begin in the United States and then soon other countries in about a month or two. I wanted to show you a little bit about cigarettes, because cigarettes are always an interesting one, and people are curious, well, how do we do this? Here's cigarette recycling in Spain. Here it is in Hungary. Here it is in France. This is in Le Défense, where now you can collect your cigarettes and they will be recycled. The way we do that is we take the collected cigarettes, the ash, tobacco, packaging, butts, everything, shred them, separate them. The organic material, the ash, tobacco, and paper is composted into a fertilizer. And the filter, which is just a plastic. People think it's biodegradable, but it's not. The plastic is just made into a plastic product, a plastic pellet, that can then be made into industrial products like plastic pallets and so on. So that's how we work on trying to eliminate the very concept of waste. What's interesting is many people tell me, well, are you a nonprofit? And we very well could be. But in a matter of fact, TerraCycle is actually a for-profit organization, but we view profit very differently. We are not in the business of how much profits we'll generate. We're in the business of how much garbage we can process and how much money we can give back. And profits to us are simply a way to make sure that we will be around. As long as we're profitable, that's all we care about. It's not about how much profits we make. And I think that's important for business to think about. Why are we in business? I think we're in business to make great products or produce a great service. It's not about how many pennies we make or how much profit we make, as long as we are profitable. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.